Welcome to part 33, Grid Container CSS. So in our dashboard.py file, we created this grid container, which is a div containing 4 of the main components of our dashboard, and we've given it the ID of grid-container. So looking at our actual dashboard, the 4 components are these cards on the left, this data tables over here, the graphs in the upper right, and the maps in the lower right. So what we're going to do with this div is, this is the outer div. We're going to use CSS grid in order to arrange the items, arrange the components in the grid. So here we've selected it correctly with its ID. We're going to change its display to grid, and then we create the grid down here with grid template areas. So it's a 2-row by 3-column grid. So the cards will be on the left, the tables or the cards will be on the far left, the tables will be on the left, graphs on the upper right and maps on the lower right. Now then we set the column and row widths. So take a look at this. This is setting those 3 columns, 13% of the viewport width for the far left cards, then 40% viewport width for the tables. And then we do a CSS calculation. This is actually a function in CSS, which allows us to do some math. So we're taking 45% of the viewport width and we're subtracting 20 pixels. Okay, so why are we doing this calculation and why did we pick 13, 40, and 45? Well, if you recall, the large container that's containing this grid container has margins on the left of 1%. So we have 98% of the viewable area left. And if you add 13 plus 40 plus 45, that'll give you 98. But we're also putting in 10 pixels of a gap for the row or for the columns in the grid. So I'm just going to subtract out those 20 pixels from the very right hand, from the right column over here. And therefore this will actually equal the 98%, and then the margins will be 1%. So it'll be altogether 100% of the width of the screen. So if we go back to our dashboard, you can see that there are 10, these are the 10 pixels I'm talking about, separating the first and second columns, and then separating the second and third columns as well. So the row heights are given here. So these don't have to be as precise, but we've used 45% of the viewable height and 40% of the viewable height for the second row, like that. And then we have a row gap of 10 pixels right here. Okay, so that sets up the grid. And then in the following videos, we will cover the grid area property of CSS, as you can see down here. So the table grids are added to the tables like that. But this covers the CSS grid for this grid container.